My name is Dr. Mario Beauregard. I'm a neuroscientist. I first started studying psychology, so I got a bachelor degree at the University of Montreal and then a PhD, a doctorate in neuroscience. And after that, I went to the United States to work at the University of Texas Medical School. And over there, I started to develop an expertise in brain imaging because it was beginning at that time. I came back to Montreal, it was in the mid-90s, to become an expert in the field of brain imaging. So I worked at the Montreal Neurological Institute that was affiliated with McGill University. And after that, I worked at the University of Montreal as a researcher for 17 years. And I developed various fields of expertise. In particular, I was using brain imaging tools to understand which parts of the brain are involved in the consciousness, emotion regulation, that was another field of expertise, and also spiritual experiences and spirituality. So I became known all over the world with regard to these field of expertise. And I've been invited to this colloque because of my involvement with the development of what has been called a post-materialist paradigm in science. So I was the leader on the manifesto for post-materialist science that was published 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I was working at the University of Arizona in Tucson. I've been there till about 2 years. And over there, what we did is, and I was the leader of the project, we examined all the scientific evidence in various fields of research, including physics and mathematics and chemistry, biology, medicine, psychology, neuroscience. And we concluded that we needed a new paradigm that goes beyond the old materialist framework. And that's what we called post-materialist science. And so become associated with this paradigm. And what's interesting is that the conclusion of this post-materialist paradigm is that consciousness in the universe is primary. It's a primary principle that transcends physical matter. In reality, it's at the origin of physical matter. In my field of research in neuroscience, that it's not the brain that produces mind and consciousness and spiritual activity. The brain acts rather as a kind of interface for mind and consciousness. And so that I came here to participate in the colloquium to present this view, essentially. Well, in particular, there's one avenue of research that strongly supports this position. It's the research about what we call near-death experience. And near-death experience are very vivid mental experiences that occur when one is close to physiological death or is even death clinically. By clinical death, we mean that the heart has ceased to function. There's no breathing. And if we record brain activity using, for instance, EEG, electrical activity in the brain, the electrical activity of the brain becomes totally absent. So the line, the electric line, the line depicting electrical activity becomes totally flat after cardiac arrest within usually 10 to 20 seconds. So it's a very good model to study what's happening in terms of mental activity. And we have collected since a few decades several cases, over 125 cases of what we call veridical perception. It's the perceptions that the people who are clinically dead are able to have. So they are clinically dead, and according to the old materialist paradigm in mainstream neuroscience, there shouldn't be any consciousness, any awareness, any perceptions or memory, because they should be in a total comatose state. Yet people who are clinically dead can often have veridical perception. So they can report information about the period when they were clinically dead. For instance, what the medical doctor trying to resuscitate the person was telling to the nurses. Perhaps if it's in a surgical room, the description of a surgical instruments that was hidden when the patient was wheeled in the room, or other stuff like that. This line of research is very important with regard to our understanding of mind-brain relationship, and there's growing evidence that it's not the brain that produces the mind, it's the brain acts more like an interface for the mind and consciousness. Well, one of the main challenges is the near-death experience, or the near-death phenomenon, especially during clinical death. But you have also other lines of empirical evidence that challenge the old materialist framework. For instance, you have what's happening at the end-of-life experiences. That's how we call them. So the people who are dying, usually these experiences happen a few days before or a few hours before the actual death. The dying person will perceive other spiritual entities. For instance, people who are now dead physically, people, relatives, friends, and so on and so forth. And these spiritual entities, or they act like guides for the dying person, and sometimes information will be exchanged. And the information that is received by the dying person can, in certain cases, it can be corroborated, verified in the actual physical world. For instance, somebody has a friend, but he hasn't seen his friend for 20, 30 years. He doesn't know that his friend is already dead. And he sees his friend in the other world. You know, it's like very often at the hospital, there's a change in terms of perception for the dying patient of the geometry of the room. The room becomes like a portal for another world, a spiritual world. And in some cases, even the nurses and the medical doctors will be able to perceive the entities. And so now we have research going on in palliative care in various regions of the world, various hospitals. That's one line of evidence, but we have multiple lines of evidence. You have another very interesting phenomenon related to near-death experience. It's called shared death experience. It's you have the friends or the relatives of the dying person will participate in the first processes associated with the death of their friends. So they will for instance, the person who just died will review everything that he's done, he's said, he's taught in his life. It's called a panoramic review, life review. But his friends in the hospital room and his family will be able to see that also. That's what is called shared death experience. And but we have lots of empirical evidence like this supporting the need to change our view regarding mind-brain relationship and consciousness. Well, now it's a battle. So we're in a state of transition between the old dominant materialist worldview and the emerging post-materialist worldview. And things are changing very rapidly, because I remember when I started presenting these findings at various universities around the world, 20 years ago, for instance, I was sometimes physically attacked because the emotional worldview was so much ingrained, you know, in the mind of the students and the professors. But now things are changing because we can discuss these issues almost everywhere around the world, including, you know, the big private universities in the United States like Harvard and Columbia and so on, and so Princeton, and so things are changing. And I think that the new emerging paradigm will become mainstream perhaps in 10, 20 years from now. You know, the transition is not complete yet, so it's possible that the students will learn only everything that was related to the old view, the materialist view. So the student, if it's the case, then they need to read more stuff, my own books, for instance, because they depict what is called the post-materialist paradigm, but not only my books, but books by others. We've created, when I was at the University of Arizona, we've created an academy for the development of post-materialist science. So this can be very interesting to students now in the field of psychology, students interested in consciousness in general and mind-brain relationship, students in neuroscience as well, and even in other disciplines like physics. And so you need to seek other sources of information, but eventually the new findings will be integrated in the courses, but it will take some time. So that's why for now it's important for the students to seek other sources of information. You can find a lot of things on the internet actually.